Uniting communities throughout the six. This is Urban Definition with your hosts Sassan, Kareem, and Zayn on CHHA 1610.
Good evening, sweet world. Today is Wednesday, May 31st, and you are tuned into a new episode of Urban Definition. As per usual, even though over the last month I swear it has not been usual, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Zayn Jinnah.
Hey, everyone.
And Mr. Sassan Mirzai.
Hey, guys.
How you guys been? I feel like I have not seen you guys in, forever.
Honestly, it's been an interesting month, eh? We, 1 week we're not all here, the next week we're all here, and then it repeats itself.
Yeah, we kept doing solo shows at one point.
1 point? What do you mean? It's been the last month.
Well...
And
yeah.
With that being said, we do have to give a special shout out to Mr. Sassan Mirzai for taking over the airwaves last week and hosting what was a pretty good show.
Yeah, I would say so.
Thanks. I'm glad you guys listened.
I to be honest, I didn't listen, but based off of what I heard from you guys, it sounded like it went well. And I'm gonna listen to your show, I promise.
It's okay, you don't have to.
I just lied on air too. Jeez.
Well, yeah, Sassan and Zayn is never to be trusted when it comes to this type of stuff.
He's right.
Okay.
With that being said, how has your week been, guys?
Oh man, it's been good. It's been real good. I'm looking forward to the weekend a lot, so I can't even complain.
That is fair.
The week just flies by for me. What about you guys?
It was my first time in medieval times.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah. Never been. Always, walked outside. I'm like, I should probably go in there one day.
It's nice to know that this is what he does with his time.
What? It was one day.
I work near there, and I always see people having so much fun. How'd you like it?
It was great. Honestly, I didn't expect any of that kind of stuff. But my horse, the guy I was rooting for, he got sick.
Well, you got to tell us what color you were rooting for.
Green, of course.
Why is it of course?
I don't know.
Don't they assign you to a color?
Yeah, they assign you, but green was the good guys, and I was like, yes, I'm the good guy.
Right on.
So it was really fun. But our horse was sick, so he was spitting and biting his shoulder the whole show, but they waited for him, and our enemy, the red guy, was like, hey, get it together, don't worry, it's all okay, and they went for a walk. I'm like, this is adorable, this doesn't look like conflict at all, what's going on? But it's fun. It was nice.
That's good, man. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
For real.
Cute. Very cute.
Yeah.
And a good segue into asking, what's going on in the news?
Well, this first piece of news that I have to share is not so welcome. A student was stabbed this morning at St. Francis Xavier Secondary School in Mississauga. The school was placed on a lockdown as the victim was rushed to the hospital for sick children with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. 2 teenage boys who attended the school were arrested, and a third suspect fled and is still at large. He was last described as a teenage boy wearing a black sweater and a red polo shirt. The 2 offenders were arrested on the scene, and police have not released details of their role in the incident. And by 3 p.m., the school was deemed to be safe and was placed out of the lockdown.
So I'm going to start my list with Kathy Griffin. For those of you who don't know who this is or what this name is, Kathy Griffin is a writer, comedian, and often public figure pushing the boundaries on most social matters. Yesterday, she made international news when she posted a picture shot by Tyler Shields, a photographer who does a lot of celebrity photo shoots. Not so controversial. Anyways, the picture depicted Kathy Griffin holding up a severed head that resembled Donald Trump with the caption, "There was blood coming out of his eyes, blood coming out of his wherever." That, of course, is a reference to what Donald Trump said about CNN reporter Megyn Kelly during his campaign. Kathy has since took down the photo, posted an apology video, and released a statement saying, "Obviously, I do not condone any violence by my fans or others to anyone." Tyler Shield defended the image by saying it's art. "I cannot stress enough that I respect the presidency of the United States of America and would never want anyone to be killed. One thing I will say is that this piece did do one thing that only one other company has been able to do in recent months. Pepsi. And by that thing, I do mean bring everybody together. Albeit that it was to bash this one piece, but still."
If you guys listened in last week, cough Zayn, I was talking about Google I.O. and how Google has brought in the Google Lens technology, which has the best recognition up to date. And this new technology is being used by Nest, So if you don't know what Nest is, you might have a Nest thermostat at home, or you might have their security cameras at home. Well, they're using a new security camera called the Nest Cam IQ, and it's going to be a high-res camera that'll detect people in your house. Like, you can set it. It's like, oh, that's Jim, my neighbor. Oh, that's my child. So then you'll get notifications when you're at work saying like, oh, Chris just came home. And it's just really cool and creepy at the same time.
For anyone who's a business owner or works as a top-level employee at a business or is working minimum wage, this next piece of news might interest you. 4 months ago, Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne appeared on the fence about increasing minimum wage to up to $15 an hour. Just yesterday, the decision was made and drew a lot of criticism, mostly for its timing and the concern of the impact it'll have. The criticism in regards to the timing is that the provincial elections will take place a year from now, making many to consider this as a move to draw out votes. Kathleen Wynne appeared on CBC's Metro Morning earlier today and defended the timing, saying that she's been wanting to do this for 3.5 years and that it's a plan to make the province fairer. The criticism related to the impact on businesses is that smaller businesses, for example, are concerned about more layoffs and hiring fewer employees. Wynne defended this by saying, quote, "The people that are going to be earning a better wage are going to be able to spend these dollars, meaning more disposable income will help grow Ontario's economy." The Premier also reaffirmed her government's commitment to working with small businesses through the transition, looking at changing the regulatory burden placed on businesses as a way to ease the potential crunch brought on by the increase.
All right, next on my list, I want to talk about Brett Weinstein and the Evergreen State College. Evergreen is a Washington liberal arts college, and a bunch of students on campus are calling for Weinstein's head, although I'm sure they'll settle for his resignation or firing. But either way, they're claiming he is a racist. This is due to an email Weinstein put out in response to the Day of Absence. For those of you unaware, like most of us before Googling it, the Day of Absence was a play from 1965. It was about an imaginary southern town where one day, out of nowhere, all the black people disappeared. So, once a year, for many years now, people on campus, both student and faculty alike, would get together both off campus or in safe spaces to talk about campus issues and how they can make the campus a more supportive environment. Weinstein was aware of this day and had no problems with it. But then someone wanted to change what the day was. This year, the organizers said that on this day of absence, they wanted white students off the campus. And in an email that has now become public, Weinstein opposed this change by writing, "There is a huge difference between a group of coalition deciding to voluntarily absent themselves from a shared space in order to highlight their vital and underappreciated roles, and a group of coalition encouraging another group to go away. The first is a forceful call to consciousness, which is, of course, crippling to the logic of oppression. The second is a show of force and an act of oppression in and of itself. You may take this letter as a formal protest of this year's structure, and you may assume I will be on campus the day of absence. I would encourage others to put phenotype aside and reject this new formulation, whether they have registered for it already or not. On a college campus, one's right to speak or be must never be based on skin color." Well, since this email, he's been cornered throughout the halls by angry students, threatened, and things don't seem to be getting any better for him anytime soon. In a video posted by students on campus, it's clear Weinstein is willing to have a conversation about this and open to hearing others. But students on campus are not willing to listen. I'm not quite sure where this story will go, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted next week about how it turns out.
If you have an Android device, then congratulations, you're one of the 3 billion people who have an Android device. But knowing that you have one of the most popular devices is basically saying, oh no, threats are coming. People are going to be making viruses to infect you because the bigger the market, the more you can hack. And this is actually happening right now. There's actually a malware called the Judy malware that's come up, and it's infected almost 36 million devices if you've downloaded any of the games from I think it's around 50 games from the Google Play Store. And basically this malware opens up a hidden browser in the background and clicks advertisements so those companies can make money. So to prevent this, just install some sort of antivirus on your phone.
I'm very glad I have an iPhone now. A Toronto Uber driver is facing sexual assault charges after a 15-year-old girl says she was attacked. According to police, the girl was assaulted on January 25th after getting into the car at the downtown bus terminal at Bay and Edward Street. The girl spoke to the police in May, and on May 18th, the driver was arrested. He is scheduled to appear in court in June.
Something cool that I'd like to share with UD Nation, but I will say that it kind of bleeds into the tech realm that Sassan usually covers. There's currently a Twitch live stream called Stock Stream, which is real creative. But either way, it allows viewers to dictate what stocks are bought and sold from a dude's $50,000. I just thought it was super cool because it took what was really interesting about the Twitch Plays Pokemon, in which users dictated the moves on a live Pokemon game from beginning to end, and applied the concept to a real-world system around money. It's really fascinating, and obviously this guy has 50 grand to just potentially throw away to lose. Last I checked, he had 13,000 left, but it keeps fluctuating, so I don't know what it's at now. But either way, I thought it was something really cool to share because it kind of shows us where we are technologically and the transparency of what's going on around the world when it comes to issues revolving around finance and currency and stocks. And in essence, potentially this is where we could see Wall Street heading.
So for my last bit of tech news, and since I ended off of an Android thing that was pretty bad, I want to bring it back with a really cool Android story. And this is, last year I talked about phone blocks. I talked about the Project Ara. I talked about the LG G4 and Moto Z. And if you don't remember these were all modular phones. These were all phones where you can grab another device, connect it to it, and it can basically make the phone have a better camera, a better battery, and so on and so on. So basically, there's a guy named Andy Rubin. He's the Android founder who's made a new phone called the Android Essential, and it's going to be basically the new flagship killer. So if you were thinking the OnePlus was like, oh my god, that's the best phone. No, this is actually going to be the coolest phone because it's made by the Android founder. It's going to be $699 US, and the specs on this thing are just pretty amazing. It's a 5.71 inch screen with a 19 by 10 aspect ratio, and it's going to be 2K pixels, 2.5 pixels by 1.3K pixels. And then it has a 8 megapixel front-facing camera, a 13 megapixel back-facing camera, 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, no headphone jack, and not waterproof, and no micro SD slot. But because of this, it has a modular ability, so for $50 extra, you can get a 360 cam, and they're actually planning to get more stuff to add onto it later on.
Following the aftermath of the bombing that occurred after her concert in Manchester nearly 2 weeks ago, Ariana Grande is holding a charity concert this coming Sunday titled One Love Manchester. Proceeds from the concert will go to an emergency fund set up by the City of Manchester and the British Blue Cross. Some of the performers who will attend are Justin Bieber, Coldplay, Katy Perry, Pharrell Williams, Miley Cyrus, Usher, and Neil Horan. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. And in a statement, Ariana Grande said, "We will not quit or operate in fear. We won't let this divide us. We won't let hate win. Music is meant to heal us, to bring us together, to make us happy. So that is what we will continue to do for us."
If you're interested by any of tonight's news topics or would like to engage with us, please hit us up on social media, which Zayn will now let us know.
Most definitely. Go to urbandefinition.ca, click on our Facebook and Twitter tabs, tweet at us, write out on our wall, send us a message, comment somewhere, and be part of the conversation. Let us know your thoughts, your concerns, and just contribute, because the conversation goes both ways.
We have got a really intense, I wouldn't say intense, we got a good show ahead of us. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this commercial break, guys. UD Nation, we are back, and we are roaring. Is that a good term? Roaring?
Sure.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, everybody. So before we get into tonight's Real Talk topic, I do want to say that as we are currently doing our show live, there seems to be just like a huge social gathering right outside of our radio cabin where I'm talking like there's like literally maybe I would say a good like 15 people. But what makes this so much more, and the reason I had to mention this on air is I am currently looking at what seems to be like 3 beauty queens or something along those lines. Like they're wearing the tiaras, they're wearing like these what do you call those ribbon things? Those ribbons, and
Okay.
like they're just having a gay old time right now. They're all laughing and they're just.
We can hear the noise,
They are
but we
so-
can't see anything.
It's just hilarious because as people are coming down the stairs, I guess everybody knows each other. So when they come down, all I hear is just like, "Hey!" or "Woo!" Yeah.
Honestly, they're just cheering for us. They hear our show outside.
They are listening right now.
It is fantastic. But I mean, I am excited to hear what the reason for them being here is. And I believe we will find out if you tune in at like 10 p.m. to the radio, which is 16:10 a.m.
Uh-huh.
On today is Wednesday, May 31st, because we do post our stuff online, so sometimes people are going to be like, what was going on? What was that about? So if you are listening live right now and you tune in again at 10 p.m., there is a Tagalog program hosted by a guy named Raymond. I wish I remembered his last name, but Raymond is going to be presumably talking to these beauty queens.
Well,
That or
they're
he just likes to-
very ahead of schedule, so
That
that's
or he
good
just likes to
preparation.
fill his studio with beauty queens. Either way, it's awesome.
It's a great start to the show.
It is.
Speaking of Raymond, everybody loves Raymond.
Oh, yeah.
That is such a great segue. So, Zane, you tell the story about that one just so that, because you're the one that kind of shouted it all out online today.
Well, very quickly, what happened was I was on Instagram for Urban Definition using my desktop and just going through, pictures, liking things, making sure our social media is up to date. And I get a notification. Patricia Heaton has liked your photo. Patricia Heaton, I'm thinking, I know that name. So I click on it. And who does it turn out to be? Actor Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond. And if you don't know who she is, she played Deborah, the wife of Raymond. And she liked our photo. I thought, oh, that's cool. So I got a screenshot. Then I get another notification. Patricia Heaton liked your photo. Another photo? She liked 2 photos of ours? All within 10 minutes of each other. That was fantastic.
I hope it wasn't like a liking spree, because I actually like it when celebrities are actually just liking your stuff, but...
What if somehow she just ended up on our page and was like, you know what? They seem legit.
Can I just say that based on this story, it deserves like a 3-horn salute?
It 100% does.
Thank you.
And the reason this story is important is only because it's our first Instagram verified celebrity who likes something. It means we're legit in some way.
Very cool.
We're not just occupying, airtime for no reason.
Very cool. And talking about Instagram verified celebrities, 2 Instagram verified celebrities recently released Netflix specials. One was a season 2 of his hit show, Master of None, Aziz Ansari.
That's right.
And the second verified individual was Hasan Minhaj, who is a reporter for The Daily Show, which is now hosted by Trevor Noah. Either way, it has gotten mixed reviews. And tonight's Real Talk topic is inspired by a very good friend of mine. His name is Arash. Shout out to the camp that we used to both be camp counselors at. That shall not be named right now for legal purposes, but either way, it was super dope, and Arash is a fantastic individual. I'm going to read what he wrote in response to these 2 shows that were released, and then we'll get into the questions, okay? So I started watching Minhaj and Ansari's latest gigs on Netflix, but quickly got bored and tired. It was again a repeat of the singular story about what it is to be brown. It's as if racists have been right all along. Brown people are all the same after all. They all have identical parents and identical aunties and identical fears and identical dreams and identical hang-ups. There are no individuals left, only tribes. When we retell the same stories over and over, we don't just become creatively stunted, we also stop being transgressive. Our words become rehash, our actions ritual, our art industry. We repackage what our audience wants to hear and resell it to them as an ideology. In this case, it's ideology that's familiarly insidious because it denies its own existence. The story masquerades as authentic, even mundane, The comedian, as the ultimate authority in an entire constructed ethnicity, stands ready to give us a tour of the everyday brown life. But for the journey to be worth our subscription fee, the brown life must be at once uniform and exotic. And so the brown comedian entices and delivers. Come hear of the arranged marriage that is my people's strange custom. Right this way for every brown parent's over-the-top severity. Behind this curtain, behold our eternal gratefulness and unquestioning loyalty to America. Which gets me to my first question. What defines the immigrant experience for you? And I want to start with Sassan.
The immigrant. Oh, okay. Well, it starts off with a family moving into, let's say, Canada or the U.S.
for you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's Canada or the U.S., and they're usually too poor to do anything about it, but they feel like whatever their kids are getting out of it is like the best present ever because they get to start a life in the new world.
But that wasn't your parents.
That's basically what my parents did. They moved from Iran to England and from England to Canada, and we were poor, obviously. And
Okay.
Yeah.
But why is that obvious?
Because that's how most of them are.
Is that how your parents came over?
My mom was an orphan when she immigrated to Canada, but she was being raised by her siblings who are all older than her except for one. They weren't poor, but they weren't rich. They were, I think, middle class at this point because she was really young, so it's not like she was earning an income. She was just being taken care of. But it's safe to say that my uncles and aunts who were raising her were not wealthy in the slightest. My dad came over. He went from Africa to London, and then from London to New York, and then New York to Toronto. So he also didn't have money, but he wasn't dirt poor either.
Okay, that's funny because unlike the two of you guys, I guess my immigrant experience is a little bit different because my family, my biological father, I don't know anything about his. I don't think they ever immigrated to Canada at all. But my mother's side of the family, they actually came over with, at the time, $40,000, which was a lot of money. And they came with the intention to obviously build a life. Due to some negligent family and some family dynamics.
Yeah.
They weren't able to truly utilize that $40,000 that they came with. And let's be honest, they came in like the 70s, which at the time $40,000 would be like equivalent to like $400,000 now.
Yeah.
But either way, my immigrant experience is very different from the two of you because Sassan came over, he was poor. Your family came over with extreme circumstances. My family kind of came over as a whole. My grandparents were already together. My mother was very small at the time. She was like 2. But either way, they didn't come over poor. But obviously, we were all, well, except for Sassan, we were all subjected to the same kind of brown standards.
Not necessarily. Just because that was our individual experiences, I also know people who did come over poor. Some people came over well established. Some people had family that was already established here.
Right.
So the experience is not the same across the board.
No, that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we had completely different immigrant experiences, but when we all immigrated here, the standards and what society saw us for was unified. They didn't see us as you rich, you poor, you this, you that. They saw us all as you're brown. But go ahead, Sass.
Sorry, I want to correct something. By saying that we were all poor, I meant like because it was Iran and everyone was escaping the Iran-Iraq war. It was mostly because like you're at your house. Like I heard stories from my mom. It's like grab whatever's precious to you, run. It's gonna get exploded. That's what I meant by poor. Like you only had whatever you can like carry.
Which is and that's similar notions to a lot of people I know whose families came here. My family didn't have to go through that.
I didn't want like people to mix it up with like people thinking, oh, everyone from the Middle East is just poor to begin with.
But even still, I think for the purpose of this discussion, I don't think that wealth really plays that big of a factor. It was more so, the reason I asked the questions was just to establish the fact that even though we're unifiedly seen as being brown, it was more so that we all just have very, very different stories. And when you see, Hasan Minhaj tell his and Aziz Ansari tell his, which pushes this whole we all come from the same brown cloth, it's not reality. Do you guys agree with that?
I see where you're going, but I have a way to tweak it and I will do that once we come back from the commercial break.
Definitely. We'll definitely tweak it. We'll be back. Stay tuned. This is a dope conversation you don't want to miss.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, everybody. So for those of you who are now tuning in from the commercial break, kind of not really sure what's going on, but interested in understanding what our real talk topic of the night is, we're talking about the brown identity. And with that, we're focusing in on Hasan Minhaj's new Netflix special, as well as Season 2 of Aziz Ansari's Master of None. Before we went off to commercial break, Zayn was saying that he did have a tweak to my last statement about the brown identity. So before you tell us your tweak, Zayn, how about you tell us what you understood from what I said?
So from what I understand, you're saying that their specials, what they've portrayed is painting everyone with the same kind of brush.
Exactly. And I say they do that with the intent of pushing this whole rhetoric of comfort, that we are all, all brown people are this, all brown people are that. Here's a little insight. We all come from parents who have absolutely ridiculous standards and severities of life.
And I disagree with that.
Okay, go ahead.
I disagree with that because while similar experiences are found in many stand-ups and jokes, they're not all the same. They're not identical exactly. Aziz Ansari's upbringing was very different from Hasan Minhaj's. They're similar in the sense that they're both Muslim. They both have parents who are not from this country, so they had to endure a lot of of racism or bullying or whatever it was when they were growing up. But it's different in how it was executed. It was different in the way they took it in.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not talking about their actual literal upbringing. What we're talking about is the presentation of that upbringing.
But even the presentation of that upbringing is different too, because, well, for Aziz, I never liked his stand-up as much. I like his show.
It's strange because most of Aziz Ansari's stand-up comedy has nothing to do with the brown culture. It more so has to do with American culture and the brown response. So, for example, a brown guy experiencing Cinnabon for the first time, or a black person seeing magic for the first time. It's very American.
And Hasan is just similar to that too. It's not this is what it is to be brown. It's this is what it was like for me at a time like this.
But that's not true, because if you watch most of Hasan Minhaj's stand-up comedy routine, it's the brown reaction to an American society. It is, this is what my standards, my family's, my brown standards on life were, and this is how, being inside of that bubble, we reacted to American culture. So it's still painting with the same brush for me.
But you can't... Fine. Let's say I give you that, for example. You can't say that that's all that there is, though, because you're also facing a lack of diversity in brown stand-ups. And just to go back to this point, even if it's the same story, look at other comics throughout the past. Look at people like Cat Williams, Chris Rock.
You're talking black people now.
But
Black Americans.
But what was
not
their story?
Immigrants. People who are, you're talking about two people who were born here.
But my point is, aren't their stories very similar?
Well, actually, Hasan Minhaj was born in America, I believe.
So was Aziz.
Was Aziz born here?
Aziz was born here.
Okay, so
they're
American
Americans,
born.
but they have very similar experiences. The black comics, right? Mm-hmm. Has their story been overtold?
Well, I don't think they have. I don't think they have. Oh, you mean like? So what you're saying is brown people's presentation in comedy is equivalent to black people's presentation of comedy in their stuff. Therefore, it's okay.
I'm saying that while they have similar stories, because people like Cat Williams and Chris Rock, they talk about what it's like to be black in America, what they have to do as how they're seen as black people in America. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that. And it can get repetitive, but they've had more years of experience and more opportunities and chances to tell their stories that now they can talk about other things. They can dive into other topics. They can dive into other areas of discussion.
I agree with you. See, I'm sorry to
people
cut you
like
off.
Aziz Ansari and Hasan Minhaj, no, they can't do that because they haven't been given the same amount of time on the mic. If they were given,
I don't agree with you at all.
If they were like Russell Peters,
I do not agree with you at all.
If they were like Russell Peters,
how long has Hasan Minhaj been doing stand-up comedy for?
To be honest, he's a young guy. He's like 30-something right now.
How long has he been doing stand-up comedy for?
I don't know. I've only recently heard of him in the last few years.
If you give Chris Rock and Hasan Minhaj the same age right now, so you actually have to bring Chris Rock down to 31, for example.
Yeah.
He's had the same amount of experience in front of a mic, in front of stand-up comedy, as Hasan Minhaj has.
And then I would say the same thing about Chris Rock, that he hasn't said it as nearly as much.
Moreover, we live in a society where people in America see a brown face and they get equally as scared, if not more, than when they see a black face.
I'm not talking about that.
Yes, but what you're not understanding the way that American society especially functions right now. And because there's so much fear, it almost seems like they want to give the comedians who are going to get the most exposure right now are the ones who are talking about, brown people who are God-fearing Americans, who love America, who this and that, and it's the same story. If you have the same story fit into the right box, we will give you airtime. We will give you the time of day.
And what do you think? What do you think happened
money.
with black comics just a few years ago, or like a few decades ago?
Okay, but
the same thing. It's a similar pattern in establishing who you are, what your story is, and then being able to move on from there. You don't see that in white comics because they don't have to face what minorities face.
I don't agree with you at all, because when you look at a comedian like Dave Chappelle, I'm not talking about now Dave Chappelle, I'm talking about like 10 years ago Dave Chappelle, right before he
plays for fun on stereotypes all the time.
But that's the thing, is it's not the same rhetoric. It's nowhere near the same rhetoric. He's not standing on stage talking about...
Because his parents weren't immigrants.
Okay, but still...
I'm not talking about their content. It's content in specificity to context.
No, but you can't equate the two of them together.
Because if you're a black comic, you're talking about the black experience as someone who's from America, then you're saying the same thing that has been told over and over again until you hit a point where that's not something you can talk about. If this was about Russell Peters, for example, and someone said, he had a special and it sucked, I get that 100% because he's been repeating the same thing for so long. I'm tired of it. But these are fresher faces to the scene. These are people...
But it's fresher faces with the same story, the same rhetoric, the same lines.
And then that brings me to my second point, is there's not enough brown people in comedy out right now.
But I just
There's a lack
why.
of diversity. Right now, what you're hearing, fine, the immigrant story. But that story differentiates so much for so many different people. If I was to talk about my immigration story... No. If I was to talk about my experience... it would differ.
Yes, but nobody is saying that all immigrant experiences are the same. What we're talking about is the fact that those who are given the opportunities are spitting the same crap
but
over
they're
and
not.
over.
That's what I'm saying.
You're telling me Aziz Ansari and Hasan Minhaj are not
they may have
the same rhetoric.
No, they don't. They may have the same subjects.
What is Aziz Ansari's rhetoric?
They may have the same subjects,
but
they have very different lives.
What is Aziz Ansari's rhetoric?
That his parents came to America, they worked very hard to get where they are, and... It's a generality, though.
Season 2 of Master of None had nothing to do with that. Go ahead. What do you
expect it to have, then?
Did you not watch Season 2 of Master of None?
I did watch Season 2.
Okay, in what episode did they talk about the fathers and the mothers moving to America in Season 2 and having a hard time?
They didn't.
Exactly. Your argument just went out the window.
So
we're focused on Season 2 of Aziz Ansari's Master of None.
He didn't talk about any of that. So what is the point then?
The whole thing Aziz Ansari pushed in Master of None Season 2 was the Brown experience and his adaptation of what that meant to him. More specifically, we can fixate on the pork episode where he's with family. And they go to a Muslim place. The father's talking about praying 5 times a day. My son is this, my son is that. And then when he's not around his parents, he's eating pork. And thus, we're pushing this whole, this is what the Brown experience is. And, this is my adaptation of, when I came to America, I started eating pork because I didn't necessarily agree with my parents.
And how is that the same as Hasan Minhaj?
Okay, now for Hasan Minhaj... his parent. What did he talk? What's like in the very first 5 minutes of that entire? No, that came later.
That came way later.
That came way later. Again, Zayn, you got to stay on point here, buddy.
Remember.
No, it's wrong. The the first half of Hasan Minhaj's stand-up was talking about no girls, in the books, no girlfriend, focus on school, become a doctor, do this, do that. My family came from this. My father came, he worked, it was just me and my dad. Then later on, I saw my mother once. And
then the sister,
the one
yeah.
time, no,
That
the
was
one time she
later.
came, she brought something from pop culture. And because I was brown, it was the most amazing thing in the world. I was like, oh my God, I'm a Ghostbuster. The entire,
And how is that the same?
it's the same rhetoric.
What? How is it the same rhetoric?
It's the brown experience talking about and fixating on basically brown culture, the immigrant experience, this whole concept of like parents over the top. Behind this curtain will behold eternal gratefulness and unquestioning loyalty to America. It's the same thing. So I feel like you really missed the point, and hopefully you can kind of ring it in with my next question, which Sassan is going to answer.
I disagree. I don't think
Sassan
they're
is
the
gonna-
same
Sassan,
at all.
I
No,
want you to
I
answer
completely
this
disagree.
one.
I
How
didn't
does-
find this
okay,
boring
but
at all, and I don't agree with
Sassan
anything
Sassan
that this person has
obviously
written about his
watched.
comment. Because no, it just I don't find it the same. And even if this person's finding it as repeat stories, if you guys are agreeing that it's a repeat story, I agree with I'm happy with it because that shows the need to tell that story, to reiterate it, and then for them to move on from there because it's an issue that people don't understand. Maybe the reason you don't like it and you
You
don't agree with
clearly just said that this is the story that.
No, I
do you
said- I
understand
said-
that people are going to hear that, see that, and then all of a sudden they're going to think that we're all the same now?
No,
But
no.
hold on, no, Zane.
No, let me finish my point.
Let me
I'm
get
saying
my
that
next
because
question.
if that's what you're like, this is assuming that that's what you're believing. This is if it's correct. Okay, let's assume it's correct that they're the same. Whatever. There is still a need for that to be there.
Not at
and there is
all.
Still,
We are pushing
there
an
is a need.
ignorant rhetoric.
Because people don't understand. People right now, what they're looking at is something completely different.
Not at all. Well,
What
I
you
mean,
have to
yes,
do
I-
is
see, but
you
you're
have
taking
to
this-
give
no,
them
you're
a paradigm
taking this-
shift of this is actually the reality, and this is what many people are going through. Fine, maybe you found the two people who have the exact same story. Not everyone has that story, and and we're all first generation Canadians. Well, Sassan, not you, but Kareem and I, we're first generation Canadians. Our stories may be the same. Our kids will have very different stories from
And
one
nobody's
another.
saying they won't.
But that's because let's assume that again with Hasan, Minhaj, and Aziz, they're going with the same story. That's what that generation has to offer right now. Until another generation comes into the play, until another person born from them comes in, there is no there may not be another story then for them to talk about right now.
And Zane's missing the point of this conversation. Sassan, how does Aziz and Hassan's constant push of the same rhetoric influence society's perception of the brown experience? Because hopefully in answering that question, it'll give Zane some context into the way that other people are thinking about this.
Okay, so here's the problem with this show. Like, I watched it myself. The second I saw it, I did not see it as comedy.
Which show?
The Hasan Minhaj one.
Okay.
So I did not see it as comedy. It was just this guy's experience going from child to now, how he became successful, blah, blah, blah. Really boring. He made jokes about things that he thinks are normal for brown people. And that's what bugged me the most. Like, the biggest one that really pissed me off was the hitting of a child. He brought that up so many times and made it sound super normal. Like, no, not all families hit their children. This is not a thing. And he took it to the level where it's like, oh, hitting the child is normal. And since Netflix has a 10-episode series about a white kid being hit, then that's weird because brown kids are always getting hit. There's no problem with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just normal. And then that's how everyone out there is going to see us.
Zane, do not respond to that. But do you understand what Sassan is saying?
Yeah, and he's saying what
I said, don't
he's
respond.
agreeing
No,
with
I
my
said-
point.
I said
That's
do
not the same
Zane,
story
I
as
said, no,
everyone
it's
else.
Not. What you two said is completely different to one
He's-
each other.
He just said that's not the same brush we should all be painted with.
No, but the way
No.
Zayn said it was that people born in that generation have the same story, which is why they have Russell Peters, Aziz, and Hasan having the same story.
And what you said, Zane, is that it's important people know this.
It is.
It's not.
And for that matter, not every brown kid was hit. So what you're lacking again is diversity. You don't have another comic coming up on stage and being like, I'm brown, I'm a first generation kid, and my experience is completely different. You don't have that yet. Someone else needs to come up. You have a small You have like 4 or 5 people who are telling a similar story. If you
Okay.
had like 100, then fine.
I like what Zayn is saying, how there needs to be diversity, but the problem Hasan did was that he normalized it and said this is for everyone.
Can I just say that? in this, wait, can I
that
just
is maybe
say-
what
Hold
you're
on,
trying to
hold on,
argue.
hold on,
If you're
hold on.
saying it's become a normalized
I'm gonna
perception,
turn off this guy's. This guy's going on and on.
if you're saying it's a normalized perception, then I agree with you. But if you're saying it's the only thing out there, that is wrong. But people need to understand that.
All right, we have to, and I wish we didn't, but we have to wrap up tonight's Real Talk topic. If you have been listening and would like to weigh in on what we're saying, if you agree with Zayn, if you agree with Sassan, if you agree with me, if you are like me and believe that Zayn did a terrible job at arguing both sides simultaneously,
I didn't argue both sides
please
simultaneously.
reach out to us on social media. Zayn, how do people be a part of this conversation?
Go to urbandefinition.ca, click on Facebook and Twitter, and comment or write on our wall, tweet at us, and tell us your thoughts. Because, yeah, and let me just say, for a conclusion for me, I personally loved Hasan Minhaj's stand-up. I could agree, I could relate to it. Aziz Ansari, I can't relate to what he was talking about, but I liked it for content.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't agree with. I think this is like the biggest time that Zayn and I have just butted heads.
We'll agree to disagree because
even agree to
I
disagree
enjoyed
with you
both
right
of those
now.
guys' specials.
I don't even agree to disagree with you, but I love you. We'll be back, guys. Stay tuned.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, everybody. So, can I just say that was probably the most heated real talk that we have ever had in our existence.
Yeah, it definitely has been.
And I will also say that I don't think that this is a topic that you and I will ever agree on.
No, 100% we won't. Did you? I'm just going to ask
No,
you
we're not
for-
going to continue this conversation.
Wait.
We're not going on.
Did you enjoy either Master of None or Homecoming King?
I enjoyed both, but not for the reasons that we were discussing on today's Real Talk topic. The reason that I enjoyed both of them, actually, is because both of them represented who I am.
Okay.
But remember, in that whole conversation, we were talking about the fact that there are so many different representations of the brown identity and the immigrant experience. And because of that, from that perspective of this is all brown experience, this is all immigrant experience, I completely disagreed and did not like it. With that being said, I did have one question that is not for you or Zayn or Sassan. I was hoping that we could probably get this posted up on social media later on, but I also just wanted to mention it on air. And that was, how do quote-unquote brown people overcome these obstacles when this is our representation in media? So hopefully Zayn can get that up on the social medias, hopefully this week. And next week, we aim to be able to talk about your comments.
For sure. We'll post it up after the show.
Now, before we get into what's going on this weekend with Zayn, I just want to know did we miss or was there anything to add on to today's news?
There was. Health Canada is investigating reports of babies being burned by banana boat sunscreen.
Oh, yeah, I saw that today, and it was absolutely awful.
So from what I've read, there have been 3 complaints so far from mothers who have said that their babies developed second-degree chemical burns after using banana boat sunscreens. Mm-hmm. And Banana Boat has said, that they test their products correctly, and pretty much what's happening is unfortunate. There hasn't been much else that I've been able to get out of the story. I haven't had that much time to research it. Health Canada has said that often it's not possible to determine if an adverse reaction reported to Health Canada is a result of using a specific health product. So I don't have that much else on it, but it is sad, and to any parents out there, just be careful of what you're giving your kid for sunscreen.
Sassan, you get anything?
Yeah, so today was actually the launch of the BlackBerry Key 1 in Canada. If you don't know what that is, that was the phone by BlackBerry that wasn't made in Canada for the first time. So it was that retro one that I talked about in January.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So it's weird. We lost our phone company.
Yeah.
I always thought BlackBerry was just going to die, man.
Well,
Wow.
it's doing pretty well now.
Way to have faith in that stock.
I had no faith in that
It's
stock.
a good thing you're not chiming in on this whole Twitch stock stream.
Yep.
Follow up to Kathy Griffin. She has now been fired from CNN. So every year for CNN, they do their New Year's bash, and Kathy Griffin is one of their correspondents. She has been fired.
That's a pretty extreme thing she did, man, holding a severed head of
That was
Donald
pretty
Trump.
intense. And people are still upset because they're like, CNN, you took too long to do that.
What didn't Fox News fire Bill O'Reilly after a week?
Didn't he step away?
No, they fired him.
They fired his ass.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, and the last thing I wanted to say was that the story about from Mr. Weinstein from Evergreen College, I would like to say that for me, I don't want to go on about it, on and about it, but I do want to say that I feel like that is a clear example of the repercussions of living in a hypersensitive society. I feel like the professor had all the right to say what he said. I read you guys what he said. Nothing in there was racist. Nothing in there was bigot. Furthermore, he was open to having a conversation with the students about what he had written, as well as listen to what the kids had to say, yet none of them wanted to have a constructive conversation with him.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you much else, man. Yeah.
All right, Zane, what's going on this weekend?
On Friday, you have the 2017 Mac and Cheese Festival. It's taking place the entire weekend.
Is that back again already?
Yeah, from June 2nd to 4th at Ontario Place. They're expecting over 40,000 people to attend, so get your grub on at the Mac and Cheese Festival.
I went last year, and it rained.
Yeah, we were planning to go together, but then there was a thunderstorm, and you're like, well, you cowered it out. And I'm like, no, there's a thunderstorm.
I went.
I was supposed to go, and then I was working.
I went. It was fun. It was really good.
Franz Ferdinand is holding a concert this Friday at the Danforth Music Hall. It's a 19-plus event, and the doors open at 7. So if you have your tickets, make sure you also have ID. Food Truckin' Friday. The premier food truck event is once again hitting the road for its second summer series installment this Friday at Humberview Chevrolet, which is at 3200 Bloor Street West. Participating vendors are Feed the Six, Bestia, Gotham Grill, the Arepa Republic, Wickedly Sinful, Sushi Burry, Gangster Cheese, Dolcella Gelato, Alejandro's Kitchen, and Feast.to. Food Truckin' Friday runs bi-weekly, rain or shine, in the parking lot at Bloor Street West and Resurrection Road, which is just west of Islington Subway Station. The event is free to attend and runs from 4:30 to 10 p.m. On Saturday, you have the 23rd Annual Toronto Brain Tumor Walk. Join the movement to end brain tumors. The walk will be held at David Picott Square, which is at 215 King Street West. Registration opens at 8:30 a.m. The survivor photo is at 9:45 a.m. Opening ceremonies are at 9:50 a.m. and the walk officially starts at 10. There are two route lengths, 2.5 kilometers or 5 kilometers, so whichever you prefer to walk. For posting on social media, use the hashtags #BrainTumorWalk and #EndBrainTumors. On Saturday, you also have the Dundas West Fest, which is a collection of local restaurants, clothing vendors, coffee shops, antiques, bars, and a couple of small stages. It's going to run all day on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. On Sunday, you have the Baysell Heart and Stroke Ride for Heart. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Baysell Heart and Stroke Ride for Heart. This annual event raises funds for heart disease and stroke research. Riders will be riding on the DVP and Gardner Expressway. You can choose to ride either 25, 50, or 75 kilometers. If you're running, you can run either 5 or 10 kilometers. If you're walking, you can only walk 5 kilometers. Register now and start training for the ride, run, or walk of your life, which, I mean, at this point it is Wednesday, so if you're trying to train that hard, good luck. Maybe you should just stick to walking 5 kilometers or riding a little bit less. Use the hashtag Ride for a Heart when posting on social media. Also, to clarify what I did just say, just be safe with, the condition of your health. That's all I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Toronto Taste 2017 is going to be on Sunday. Experience the best from over 60 of Toronto's top chefs and enjoy beverages from 30 purveyors while enjoying breathtaking views and incredible entertainment. It's going to be on Sunday night from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Tickets are now on sale for $260 with a $150 tax receipt. And that's what's going down this weekend.
It is a cool, not so cool, 37 degrees in this radio cabin right now. It is 19 degrees outside. Game 2 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals kick off tonight. Actually, I think it just started. Game 1 of the NBA Finals start tomorrow. LeBron James' house was vandalized today with racial slurs.
Wait, what?
This weekend is going to be pretty good weather. We're looking at into the 20s. Rain isn't hitting until Sunday. There is a lot to do, a lot to see. Zayn just told you about some sick things to hit up. I'm going to a Michael Shea stand-up comedy show. Zayn is going to be exploring Canada in Montreal. Sassan will hopefully go back to medieval times. Okay. If y'all are going out, have a fantastic weekend. Have a fantastic week. Do not drink and drive because ain't nobody got time for that. Live, love, learn. We're all students of life. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Urban definition.